Hey, thank you, Miranda. I appreciate that. And I'm so very excited to be here to be talking to you all. When Miranda first approached me about this, I was so excited. I was like, I have the perfect topic I would love to talk about. I just need a title. And so we found the title and everything else just fell into place. This is a topic I like to talk about often. It's basically the crux of what I do for behavior consulting. I am a behavior consultant. I own two boxers, Sansa, who is 10. She is my first dog. And then we have Flash, who is making an appearance in my background here, doing naughty things. I was agonizing over which picture to post for the background, and Naughty Flash won because Naughty Flash will be the majority of what you'll see on my webinar here. Flash has quite a few behavior issues. He has some conflict control aggression issues, specifically targeted towards me, his handler, his owner. And we have spent a good 3 years working our way through them. And I am pleased to say that they are it's no longer an issue. Let's put it that way. Like, it's really not an issue anymore. And I think that's really kind of cool. So let me think. Yeah, so he's the crux of this. So I usually teach on this to other trainers, other sport trainers, other professionals and stuff like that. So I had to find a way to change my language around to make it more accessible to the everyday dog owner who might not know a lot of the terminology that we use in like professional settings. And that's how I came up with the name of the webinar, Your Dog's Love Language. Because yeah, how do we increase our dogs' quality of life and change things and help speak to our dogs and show them that we love them and ask them to trust us in return. And it's not going to work if all we do is butt heads with them. So let's start talking our dogs' love languages. So let me start sharing my screen because I came up with this very cute presentation and I would love to do that. So let's get going. Can everybody see me? I hope so, because I can't see the chat box. Miranda, can you let me know?
Yep, we can see you.
Awesome. I'm going to make this full screen. There we go. So that is me and Flash when he was like 9 months old. And that is the very first kiss he ever gave me and pretty much the last. Flash is not a very affectionate, touchy-feely dog. Well, let's put it that way. So this is what we'll kind of be discussing today, where I'm gonna like give you a brief overview of what the 5 love languages are, and we're gonna talk about ways that we tend to show our dogs love, and then what does this really have to do with reactivity and behavior modification, and then talking about meeting our dogs where they're at and how little changes can help heal reactivity. What are the 5 love languages by Gary Chapman? And like, I first heard about it when I was at a marriage retreat with my ex-husband. We clearly did not speak each other's love languages. And it's a lovely book, and it just talks about how the ways that we like to receive love as a verb and how we give love as a verb. How do we love people? So some people really resonate with words of affirmation. Some people really want to spend quality time with their loved ones. Some people like receiving gifts. Other people's it's receiving acts of service. And then for others still, it's physical touch. So what do these look like? So for words of affirmation, we're talking about praise, compliments, words of encouragement, words of love and endearment. Quality time looks like date nights, traveling together, doing chores together, meaningful conversations, like deep, meaningful, like touchy-feely conversations. And then also something called parallel play. We usually see parallel play in terms of kids, where 2 kids are having fun doing their own separate activities, but in the same space. But quality time in adult relationships can look like that too. So like if you're super comfortable with your partner, like one of you can be reading a book and the other one can be, I don't know, like crafting or playing a video game or watching TV or anything like that. And you're just sitting in that comfortable sweet, wonderful silence. You know what I'm talking about? It's like not uncomfortable, but it's just like, perfect. You're doing your own thing, but you're doing it together. Receiving gifts, gifts. I thought I fixed that typo. Random gifts to show that they're thinking of you, or like flowers or chocolates on a regular basis. Like I think about stories of like a 70-year-old couple who like they'll talk about the entire 50 years of my marriage. My husband brought me flowers every single Friday just to show me they love me, like things like that. Acts of services looks like doing the chores that you don't like so that you don't have to. For me, that's taking out the garbage. I don't like it. Like rolling the garbage bin down to the street, that part in particular. It's because it's heavy and I'm a little princess sometimes. Also, doing the litter boxes. I don't like doing the litter boxes. So if you do the litter boxes for me, you're speaking my love language. Opening doors for each other, running errands. So like if you go pick something up because I don't have time to, love you, love you. Doing something you asked the first time. So like no nagging. If I go, hey babe, can you do XYZ? And then they do, that right there is an act of service versus like having to nag them for hours and hours and days and months. Physical touch is holding hands, kisses and hugs, snuggling, closeness, making love. Physical closeness, like just being together, like say even just on the same couch, but not even touching, like things like that, just closeness. Okay, so how do we show our dogs we love them? I asked this question on Instagram this week, and these are some of the answers that I got. So you can go ahead and read them, but I am going to point out that there's a lot of like smoosh on them and cuddle with them and give them kisses and things like that. And I want to put a pin in that. I want to, because it'll be important in a little bit. But yeah, a lot of people show their dogs that they love them through cuddling them. I personally show my dogs I love them by providing them with time to move their bodies naturally. So hikes in the woods, off leash if possible, or on long lines and harnesses. I provide them with whole and balanced nutrition to the best of my abilities and what's best for them as well. And that looks different for every dog, every person, and every budget. So don't let anyone shame you over how you provide your dog with food and nutrition or anything like that, please. Someone wrote that they provide freshly laundered blankets every day. And I think that's a huge one because we think of that as like soft, cozy, wonderful, warm feelings, but also cleanliness and giving them like a clean place to sleep and snuggle is super important. And I think that's a lovely way to show our dogs that we love them. Some people wrote respecting their boundaries. Someone else wrote giving them treats just because or just for existing. This was one of the cutest answers I saw, simply because like I know this dog. Giving my dog kisses. He presses his snoot against my mouth when he wants them. I know this dog and I could not imagine him like doing that. He's just like such a busy boy, and that just like made my heart sing. Giving my dog ample time to sniff on like 98% of our walks and long lines. That's a lovely way to show our dogs that we love them. So many wonderful ways. I could not fit all the answers I got on this slide because I didn't want to make multiples. So what do love languages have to do with reactivity? Well, I'm glad you asked. Oftentimes when our dogs are struggling behaviorally, when we're having behavioral issues, these are issues that are really mostly inconveniencing us as people because society says they're bad, or also because these behaviors are often dangerous. So like, yeah, our dogs might be barking and lunging at the end of the leash and they might not be hurting anyone, but what if they got loose? There's a possibility to cause harm. And so we want to kind of make sure that these things are taken care of, and our dogs feel that there are other ways for them to express their feelings without having to resort to like barky, lungy, aggressive displays. You know what I'm saying? So really, when we're talking about reactivity and how to heal it, one of the questions I like to ask is, are we actually really truly listening to our dogs and what they need and what they want? So I am going to liken this to the people. That's what I have all written here, to our partners. And then I'm going to liken each point to dogs. We often find ourselves frustrated by our partners who don't love us how we want, who don't speak our love languages, say our love language is acts of service, and our partners are trying to love us with physical touch. But what if we're not a touchy-feely kind of person? What if we don't speak physical touch as a love language? Or they want to hear words of praise and encouragement and affirmation, or spend time with us and have those deep and meaningful conversations and do these activities together, and we get frustrated because they don't like they want to do that, but all we want to do is do things for them, or hug them and kiss them and things like that, to show that we're not really listening to our partners, and our partners aren't really listening to us. So we don't often get to see, so we often get frustrated, with each other. I totally lost my train of thought there for a second. I'm sorry. So we find ourselves frustrated with our partners, and often we're frustrated when our partners don't appreciate and love us the way we want them to love us. And we don't, and we're frustrated when they're frustrated. It's just a whole mess, right? I'm losing track of my thoughts trying to make sense of it all. So this is the messiness of relationships. Now, it's the same thing with dogs. You see, here's a picture of Flash screeching at me with our instructor behind us. This is many moons ago at this point. I think this was about 3 years ago. You will see the clip where this screenshot was taken from in a little bit, but he's screeching at me. He is yelling at me. This is the barky, lungy behaviors that I talked about. He is telling me he did not like something I did to him, and I will show you in the clip in a minute. But our dogs, oftentimes we try to speak a love language to our dogs and they don't like it. And a big one is physical touch. A lot of us want to hug and snuggle and pet our dogs, and a lot of dogs actually don't like it. And depending on the dog, that can turn into some real issues. I know this firsthand. Anyway, so we often hold it in, though, when we're frustrated with our partners, not saying anything for various reasons, usually because we love them and we don't really want to make a big deal about it. But then we hold it in for so long that we blow up at them and we turn the smallest thing into a giant issue. And that's what you'll see in this clip coming up. Flash is holding in his feelings until he couldn't anymore, and all he did was explode. And oftentimes when we're butting heads with our dogs and we're trying to modify their behavior and trying to teach them what we want them to do instead of the barky, lungy, reactive behaviors that we see them doing, we often instead just, make it worse, because we're trying to love them the way we would want to be loved, or we think they want to be loved, when in reality, all we're doing is pushing them further and further away and teaching them that we're not going to listen to them and they can't trust us. We're constantly out of sync and butting heads. We've become uncomfortable in each other's company, dreading it, even though we really love each other. That's kind of what I was talking about there. Our dogs really want to try and do the thing with us, but when push comes to shove, I don't think that they think that they can trust us. We don't trust each other to take care of each other, including meeting each other's needs. If my dog doesn't think that I am going to meet his needs, he's going to act out. And if I don't meet his needs, he's definitely going to act out. And we're constantly out of sync and butting heads. In other words, we're having poor communication. So here's that clip. There is no sound, but I think that's a good thing because it really forces you to watch what we're doing. For those of you who are not sport people, we were working on a competition obedience behavior. We're working on dumbbell retrieves. So that's what's in his mouth, that blue thing over here. This is a dumbbell. And we're working on stillness with the dumbbell in his mouth. So we're doing a chin rest with the dumbbell in his mouth. So basically I'm teaching this dog to hold the dumbbell no matter what's happened and hold your head still. This is the only time he's okay with me touching him, and it's really because I asked him to put his chin in my hand, not me reaching towards him. So take a look real quick. I'm just going to show you the beginning. It's a long clip and I really don't want to take up all the time watching it, even though it kind of sort of matters. So I might come back to it. So see how I fed him a couple cookies and then I scratch his chin and his neck and he immediately starts reaching for the dumbbell. And I take the dumbbell away from him. Like I tell him, no, you can't do that. And we're talking and he's waiting and I look at him and he's like, no, give me that dumbbell. I want that dumbbell. So I touched his chin again and he starts jumping and pushing against me. So I'm holding him by the collar just to keep him still. And the second I let go, he starts barking and lunging again. But notice how he didn't jump on my body again. And that's because he really didn't want me grabbing him by the collar again. And he's obsessing about the dumbbell in my hand because that is the safe option for him. Because if the dumbbell is in his mouth, then I'm not scratching him and I'm not touching him. So this entire thing that I ended up talking through, this entire clip, this entire display of aggressive behavior towards me was simply because of this little bit in the beginning. See how nice and relaxed he is. It's really hard to tell body language on a boxer, I know. I give him a cookie, I scratch his chin. I give him another cookie and I scratch his chin. And I continued scratching it and he was like, oh heck no, I am done with this. So here is going to be a very, very, very clear display. This one does have volume. So I'm really sorry if it's super loud. I will turn my volume down. Hopefully that'll help. I'm sorry if it's super loud, like just hit mute, it's fine. But this does have sound. You see here is my friend and colleague and mentor, Dr. Amy Cook. She is touching Flash. This entire time she's touching him while I'm feeding him. And we try in a second to distract him with the toy and he is like, nah. So I want you to see how much he really hates being touched. See how he's trying to ignore her for the cookies, and then she touches him more and he's like, get away from me. And all she does is keep touching him. He's like, get away from me, get away from me. Nah, I don't want to do that. Stop touching me. I'm going to start barking at you. And the only reason he wasn't in her face is because I happened to grab him. But I want you to watch again and see how close he got to actually getting her in the face. Right? Oh, it was before that. I'm sorry, it was right about here. Right there. See how she put her elbow up and held him back? She knew it was coming as it started coming. Now, my dog has no bite history. He is not actually a dangerous dog. And once we found out what he found aversive and what he found rewarding and pleasurable, we were able to resolve like 99% of his problems. And the one we didn't resolve is me. So what love languages do our dogs speak? Before getting into that, let's talk about their basic needs. We want to make sure that we're taking care of all our dog's basic needs. And yes, this does go beyond food, water, and medical care and shelter, but I did put it up there anyway. So food, water, and medical care. I think one of their basic needs is a balanced and varied diet. We want to make sure we're giving them proper nutrition, and that looks different for every dog and every home and every budget, like I said. I do believe one of their basic needs is proper grooming and physical care. I myself have short-coated dogs because I know that I will not take the time to groom properly a long-haired dog. And because proper grooming, proper brushing every day is super important for wire-haired dogs or long-haired dogs or anything that is not a short-haired coat is super important because of matting. Matting can get dangerous. We can see some hot spots. We can see some skin issues, things like that. And I know I'm not going to take the time to do it. So I am never going to own a dog that has high grooming needs. And physical care. So keeping them in physical shape. If they are in pain or hurt themselves, it is our duty to meet the basic need of taking care of them until they are healed. I think one of their basic needs is clear communication. I think that that is not a luxury for most dogs. It is a necessity. Enrichment opportunities is a basic need. How happy would you be with your life if all you did was woke up, ate, went to work, came home, went to bed? We all need hobbies. We all need things that enrich our minds and make us happy, and so do our dogs. I think one of their basic needs is proper exercise. That looks different for every single dog. And then also activity and rest balance. So a nice balance between giving them exercise and allowing them opportunities to rest. And I do believe that meeting their basic needs falls under the category of acts of service. I consider acts of service as a whole to encompass meeting their needs. So let's talk about their basic needs. Let's go beyond the basics of basic needs. So clear communication. What is it? What do you want your dog to do? What do they get in return? And how and when will they get the reward? So a clear cue to ask your dog what to do is just a simple, short word that tells them the behavior you want them to exhibit. And if we're going to break that down even further, they have to understand the behavior from the very beginning. So we have to be mindful in how we teach them what we want them to do. I think we owe it to our dogs to not be messy in our training, especially with some of these dogs that are higher needs, much like Flash is, my dog. What do they get in return? So we need to let them know that if you do this, you will get this. Everybody works for some type of reinforcement. Nobody goes to work for no pay. Everybody gets a paycheck. And yeah, sure, I'd go do my job for no pay for a little while, but after a while, I would call it quits, even if it was a job I loved, that brought me joy, that fulfilled me, like I do now. I still wouldn't go to work if I didn't get paid on a regular basis. Our dogs deserve to get paid for what they give us every single day too. And how and when will they get the reward? Not every reward or piece of reinforcement, or however you want to call that word, needs to be immediate, and not every single thing needs to be paid. Sometimes you can, like, there are people who get paid per diem every day, and then there are people who get paid bi-weekly, and then there are people who get paid once a month. Our dogs need to be very, very clear on how and when they will get paid. Proper and varied diet. So would you be okay with eating the very same thing every single day for every single meal? Like, I'm thinking something like an MRE, like, or like a freeze-dried diet, you know, something like that. Something bland, something icky. Would you be okay with like eating bland oatmeal every single day of your life without adding any kind of variety or flavors to it? And also, is that healthy? So I'm not saying that giving your dog the same kibble every single day is not okay. It is a nutritionally balanced meal. But sure, we can add nutritious and interesting things to our dog's kibble, to our dog's diet, to make it interesting and to just be fun and enriching for our dogs. So like, for example, you can add in a raw egg here and there, or you can add some yogurt. You can add some ground beef, maybe cooked or raw, depending on what you're comfortable with. You can add in things like a dehydrated duck foot. You can add things like just some fresh food here and there, some fruits. There are plenty of fruits that are dog safe, just something to add some texture and excitement and maybe a little nutrition, like maybe add in a couple of sardines, things like that. And we want to be mindful of the subtle signs of allergies or intolerances. Not everything is super obvious. Like, it's super obvious that my older girl, Sansa, she's super allergic to beef. Giving her the tiniest little amount will send her to the ER. Like, not every allergy is that obvious. So we want to be mindful of that as well. Itching, yeasty feet, yeasty bellies, excessive thirst, and sometimes behavioral issues can be a sign of food intolerances. So we just want to be mindful of that. Enrichment opportunities are activities that engage your dog's mind and body. Like I was saying before, think about your hobbies and what do they add to your life? Do they make your life worthwhile? And would you do them if they didn't? And these things look different for every single dog. Proper exercise is not always exercise them until they drop. It's more the ability to move their bodies freely. Activities that aren't taxing to their body, so aren't going to run them ragged, but rather tiring. and lower impact activities to reduce the risk of injuries. So think along the lines of running around in the woods and swimming versus playing chuck it or fetch for half an hour over and over and over. So let's play less fetch and more romps in the woods. Why? Because fetch is something that does run them ragged, but it also exhausts their bodies, but not their minds. It kind of winds their minds up. So think of it like us. There are some physical activities that we do, we're exhausted by the end of it, but our brains are so wired that we can't relax. Think of it like traveling 24 hours on airplanes or trains or whatever versus a hike up Mount Washington. I forgot my audience isn't New England based. That's a mountain in New Hampshire. But anyway, so think of that. Like one will leave you kind of a relaxed tired and one will leave you a frazzled tired. We want to do more relaxed tired and less frazzled tired and less, risk of injury if possible. And then of course that exercise, rest, balance. Have you been told that a tired dog is a well-behaved dog? I think like even I still say that in my puppy classes. I really need to change my verbiage for that though, because we often exercise our dogs so much that after a time, we struggle to adequately tire our dogs out. Too much exercise creates an Energizer bunny that never runs out of fuel. And that's the kind of dog that just will start looking for trouble and will start developing a lot of behavior issues because they don't know how to rest and relax and just be chill. So improper exercise will tire the body, but tax the mind and making it difficult to rest. So we want to make sure that our dogs have a nice exercise and rest balance. We don't want to create monsters that just go and go and go and go. We want a dog that can relax when we need them to. So what love languages do dogs speak? And it's a little bit more complicated than it is with us. And for me to sum it down into like, 5 categories, it took me a little thinking to do, and I think I came up with a pretty good idea. Our dogs' love languages, I believe, are clear communication, enrichment opportunities, quality time, physical touch, and receiving gifts. Now, clear communication is a must for so many dogs, but it is not a must for every single dog. For example, we all have those super sociable, super easy, think like dopey golden retriever dogs, that kind of type of dog who you can get away with being super messy. They kind of figure it out as you go. They're like, I don't really know what you're doing, but I kind of figured it out and this is good enough. And then there are dogs who the moment you do the slightest thing wrong, they start attacking you like Flash did. All I did was scratch his neck. That didn't warrant that huge aggressive display. But because Flash's love language is absolutely not physical touch, it did warrant that display, especially because all I did was overstep and overstep and overstep for 2 years. And he finally got sick of it and was like, we're done. So what does clear communication look like? Clear, simple cues. You don't want to trick your dog. So like, you don't want to lure them and pretend that you're doing something and then do a bait and switch and teach them and tell them that they're doing something else. You don't want to tease them, things like you just don't want to do that. That's just, you're going to create a dog that doesn't trust you. But then there are some dogs that you can get away with that every so often and it's fine. You want to be predictable. You always want to be, you want to make sure that your dog always knows what they're getting when they're interacting with or around you. You want to be clear with your markers. If you don't know what that means, a marker is something that tells your dog that, yes, you did a great job, your food or your toy reward is coming. So like think of a clicker or a yes word that tell your dog. So clear markers that tell your dog what you're giving as reinforcement and how you'll give it to them. So for example, Flash has yes, which means he has to come and take the cookie from my hand. And then he has chase, which means I'm going to throw a toy. And now if I said chase and I threw a piece of food, which he prefers over toys, he's still going to get mad because he was expecting a toy, but I gave him food. So although, yeah, he likes food better, he was still expecting a toy, and those expectations need to be met. So that's where being predictable and not tricking your dog come into play, because What if they really, really, really wanted that toy in that moment? And yeah, the food was like better in general, but because they wanted that toy. Have you ever had a drink, you wanted to take a sip of a drink and you were like, oh my gosh, this looks like water, and then it was like Sprite? Yeah, you like Sprite, but you were expecting water, you know, something like that. And then you want to be sure that they know the type of reinforcement they're getting and the type of reinforcement strategy. So type of reinforcement, what kind of food they're getting, if they're getting food or a toy, what kind of toy they're getting, a tug toy or a ball on a rope, you know, those kind of things. And then the type of reinforcement strategy, like, am I going to throw it for you to chase, or do you have to come here and tug with me? Am I going to race you to the food bowl, to the cookie jar, or am I going to hand it to you? You know, that kind of thing. Enrichment opportunities. Does your dog like moving their bodies? Does your dog like sniffing or foraging? Does your dog like chewing or destroying things? Does your dog like shredding or destroying things? Does your dog like chewing things or digging? Does your dog like doing sports or other types of training, swimming, solving puzzles, hanging out with dog friends? Or does your dog like hunting, tracking, and chasing things like wildlife and bunnies and stuff? So kind of gauge what your dog likes of these kind of general activities, and then provide them opportunities to like do those things. Quality time looks like snuggling or training or social play, which is playing with you and your dog without a toy. Toy play is playing with a toy in an engaging game of like tug or fetch, versus like a cooperative game of fetch, not just I'm going to throw the ball, you're going to drop it in front of me, I'm going to throw the ball, you're going to drop it, nothing like that. So like they have to come chase you, and then they have to shove the ball in your hand, and you're going to like get them amped up and load the spring, be like, are you ready? Let's go, and throw the ball, that kind of thing. Do they like low-key outdoor activities like paddling, like kayaking, or a walk in the woods? Do they like parallel play? So like I see parallel play as something like, I'm gonna sit here and do my workout while you are gnawing on your bone over there, things like that. Or do they like just being near each other, like near you, near their dog friend? Like Flash and Sansa love being near each other, but they don't like snuggling together. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean. Physical touch. Does your dog like soft, gentle pets? Or does your dog like rough pets, deep scratches, you know, the ones that like you just get right in there? Or do they like tiny, light, feathery scratches? Do they like any physical contact at all, or no physical contact? Consider where your dog likes to be touched. Many dogs don't like being touched on the face or the top of their head, but they love to be touched on their chest or their withers, which is their shoulders, or they love butt scratches, but you know, that's kind of it. That's really all they like, you know, that kind of thing. So be mindful, and there are ways to gauge how much your dog loves to be touched, and to give them a choice. And really, do they want to keep snuggling and playing and petting, or do they want to walk away? Because dogs are so kind to us, guys. They're so kind to us. They will sit there and tolerate pets longer than they're actually enjoying it, because they love us so much and they don't know how to walk away. So we need to be mindful and provide them with opportunities to walk away. One of the ways I like to do that is it's called the 3-second rule. I'm going to pet my dog for 3 seconds and remove my hands. So scratch, 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 remove my hands. If my dog stays where they are or pushes into me, like they're going to be facing me, oriented towards me, pushing into me, or staying there, that's an invitation to keep playing. But if they kind of back away, turn around, or do really anything else to kind of just signal that they might not want to continue, then they'll be all done. And I won't keep petting them. So I'll pet, 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 ask. And if they push in or just kind of hang out, I'll pet them again for another 3 seconds, and then again for another 3 seconds, until they're like, okay, thanks, I'm done. And then they walk away. And that's actually how I got Flash to the point where he now likes certain types of touch, and in certain circumstances, that involve no one else watching. So like he doesn't want touch in public. He will not accept pets in public, and he will resort back to those handler directed aggressive displays if I try to like scratch his butt in public. We're still working on it. And then also receiving gifts. So receiving gifts really looks like providing new toys, and then what kinds of toys. So like, do dogs like big plushy fill your mouth toys, or do they like thin crinkly toys? Do they like squeaky toys? Do they like soft toys or hard toys, crunchy water bottle toys? You know, what kind of toys do they like? Provide them with those. Providing beds and blankets and comfort items, like actually giving it to them, presenting them with their food dishes, puzzle toys, or food stuffed toys like Kongs or Topples. Giving them their things is considered giving, gift giving, or them receiving the gifts. They love it. They love it. And most dogs speak receiving gifts as a love language. Most. I think I know only one who will sit there and be like, what the heck are you doing? Go away from me. What is that? And I have to like put it down for them and walk away. And then they'll be like, okay, maybe I'll think about it. But they prefer if it kind of just appears. This poor dog had been through the ringer though, so whole different story. But they don't speak receiving gifts as a love language. They do, however, speak enrichment opportunities. So all of these different things matter. And if we can, you know, chip away at what our dogs like and provide them with what they want, with what they enjoy, we'll start seeing positive changes in their quality of life and their entire demeanor after that. So just as an opportunity to include so many cute pictures, I'm going to show you what different types of enrichment opportunities look like. Here we have Miss Bader in the top left corner with a muffin tin and little a blanket on top and some tennis balls in there, and it's all hiding food. She likes solving puzzle toys for food. It's really the only time she'll eat food. She doesn't like to eat out of a bowl because she's a silly goober. Here we have Flash playing with his niece. He finds quality time with dog friends to be super enriching and super important to him in order for him to be a civilized being, which is funny because he's super dog reactive, and I used to think he hated dogs. Turns out he needed more time with dogs. And then right below, you see him chewing on a marrow bone. Like, he's going to town on that marrow bone. I don't think I've ever seen a dog enjoy something as much as he is enjoying that marrow bone. So Flash is a chewer. He finds chewing so enriching. He needs it. It's one of those basic needs for him. He needs opportunities to chew on things. And Sansa here, who is shredding apart all our Christmas boxes, she finds shredding and destroying things to be super enriching. So she gets so many opportunities to shred things, and that looks like our junk mail, all the catalogs that we get in the mail that for some reason they keep sending us and we want nothing to do with. She shreds those up. She's not a consumer, so she's not going to eat any of this stuff. She really only eats food items, so I feel safe and comfortable providing her with opportunities to shred boxes and junk mail and things like that. This is Walker over here on the top right with his snuffle net. He loves foraging. That's one of the things he also finally, go back. He finally started getting into puzzle toys, but he really loves his snuffle net. Foraging and snuffling are his love language for enrichment opportunities. And then here we have this muddy little fella here is Sparky. Sparky is one of my remedial socialization client dogs. He loves hiking in the woods, sniffing, running around with some dog friends. He loves all of that. He loves getting super muddy. Thank goodness he's not my dog. But still, he needs to, I am the one who cleans them off because I insist on taking my dogs back home as clean as they came to me. Here's he and Flash right below, foraging together for a food scatter. I had thrown a handful of food on the ground for them to kind of forage for and sniff and eat together. And then finally, this last photo is Flash with his girlfriend, Frenzy, who is a Rottweiler with a tail, running back and forth, just being silly goobers. And that is their love language. They love to move their body freely and run around in the woods and just interact together. So that's what some opportunities for enrichment might look like. And then this is what quality time can look like. So here we have Sansa and in the kayak on the top right. She loves spending time with me on the water while I just go paddle and listen to my audiobooks. And she just kind of sits there, takes in the smells, enjoys just being lulled on the water, you know, the little waves. She loves it. And then at the end, I have an inflatable kayak, and at the end, while I'm deflating it and packing it up, I throw a bumper for her to go fetch in the water. She loves it. And then on the top left, we have Flash and I healing here. We are practicing our obedience heal out in the woods. That's how we spend a lot of quality time. He loves to train with me. Down in the little heart frame, we have me and Sansa just looking out on the water. I thought that was a cute picture, so I added it in to show what quality time can look like. And then right next to her is Flash cuddling with me. It was a rare opportunity where he wanted to snuggle on my lap in public, so it needed to be recorded. The owner of the training facility that I train at happened to come out and watched that, walked back, got her phone, and took a picture. And I'm so glad she did, because I adore this picture. So I'm teaching a puppy class. Week 1 is the talk night, where we tell them how everything's going to go, and Flash demos things. And he just wanted to snuggle with me instead of lay on his mat. And then we have him hanging out with me while we were waiting our turn in obedience. Sans and I playing agility down here on the bottom, and then Flash and I hanging out at the patio of a brewery. So I wanted to include those pictures, and that's why I did. So I figured this was a great opportunity to showcase a lot of cute pictures. And yeah, I think there's a lot more to say on this, but I also think that I can start expanding on this by answering some questions. So, oh, wait, I forgot I had a whole slide here. Look at the results. Look at the results of speaking Flash's language. He got some obedience titles here. He got some super awesome nosework titles. This is his NACSW, that's one of the nosework associations. His NW3 Elite, which means he passed the nosework level 3 title level 3 times. And now he's off into the championship level, which is amazing. And I want to show this video of Flash playing agility. Flash used to actually bite me and tear my clothes in agility once upon a time. And this was this past New Year's Day, actually. So let's see him play.
Okay.
It took us many years to get to this point.
Yeah, good boy.
And this is just an intro course. This is like a baby pre-novice
Yeah.
course.
Good boy.
But for him, this is a big deal. This is a huge deal.
Woohoo!
And everybody here who is cheering, especially the person videoing, they all know what I've been through with this guy, with this dog. Like, they know. Y'all remember the background picture of me on my Zoom camera here? That's what Flash does in agility, or what he used to do. And now he can run baby courses, and I love it. All right, now, do we have any questions? And I'm going to leave this up for a minute. If anyone wants to get my contact info or some socials, I'll leave this up for a minute. And then I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen, and I will add that all into the chat. Don't worry. We'll make sure that I get all that information out there.
Oh my goodness, that was so exciting. So many different ideas, I think, for everyone to take home. You know, we talk a lot about enrichment and ways to do different things with our dogs, but we don't often frame them in sort of these essential love language type communication devices. So that I think this is a really great way for us to kind of rethink some of the things we already know, but in a different way. So thanks so much to Adam for that one. All right, so we've got a question from Yara. I'm not sure about how I should determine my dog's love language. Could you provide an example of a setup to do that?
Heck yeah. So oftentimes it's trial and error. Trial and error.
Yeah, there we go.
When I talk a lot, in a row, I just start tripping over my tongue. So I apologize. But yeah, no, it's often trial and error. We will, like, I found out that Flash doesn't like shredding by providing him with opportunities to shred. And I put lots of yummy food in there. And really all he did was like, he would tear, like I provided those brown lunch bags and put some really yummy food in there, crumpled them up, put them inside a box. And really all he did was like walk away from it, even though he could smell the food. He was like, this is what? But then Sansa came over and started ripping it apart, getting that food. And then once he saw her do it, he was like, oh, okay, I guess. And then he would like do the minimal effort, like put in minimal effort to kind of open the thing and maybe tear one large shred away just to get to the food. He was like, okay, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? But he really, really, really like loves to chew on marrow bones and topples and frozen kongs and things like that. And I notice that when I do provide him with opportunities to chew on things regularly, he is a much more civilized being in my home. So for him, he gets lots of chewing opportunities. And Sansa likes to chew like that, but she likes shredding too. So I make sure to offer her a nice mix. So it's really just trial and error. Find out if you're like, Flash won't kayak with me. Like when Sansa's time comes to say goodbye to me, I am going to be companionless. I'm going to have to actually start asking friends to go paddling with me. Like, But he loves moving his body in the woods. So he's on rest right now for a chronic injury. He has not moved his body in about 8 weeks, like freely, the way he likes to, the way he needs to. And a lot of his problem behaviors are starting to crop back in. Problem behaviors that I work on actively every day still to manage him. It's as if all the training went out the window, because these things are essential to our dogs and they add to their quality of life, and they make it easier for them to truly listen and let the training take hold. Like this is not optional for so many dogs. It is necessary for so many dogs. And yeah, I understand that different people and different lifestyles are not conducive to a lot of different things, and that's totally fine. There are always ways around things, and there are always different or modified options. So I am always happy to help people figure out what they want, what their dogs like, and what they want.
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking, Adam and I, before about the assumptions that people often make about their dogs and the role that their dog should serve in their lives and what they want to do. And sometimes we see people who are like, I want an agility dog, and the dog that they get is not a dog who wants to do agility, right? So there's this balance again of like, what is my love language, right? Versus what is their love language, right? How do they want to communicate? I think the idea of that sort of 3-second rule for petting is kind of a good way to approach lots of different things, where it's like, dip your toe in, try a little bit of this, see if it works. You know, you take the garbage out once, and is the person super thankful, or are they, they just don't care about it? My dog does not really like being petted. And I discovered this, she's a little head shy. She'll take butt scratches, but she's not really big into petting. She's not going to get frustrated about it. She just kind of moves away from it. It's not her thing. But if she can snuggle you, she wants to be fully on top of you. And so if you sit on the couch next to her, she will slowly crawl on top of you. She makes it very,
so
very
relatable.
obvious. Meanwhile, you give her a food puzzle and she looks at it for 6 seconds and then looks at you like, why did you put the food in there? Like, why did you not give me my food? And my boyfriend's dog has a food puzzle that she will just go and play with when there's no food in it, because she's so excited about moving the things around.
She just loves moving the piece.
Oh, yeah, so exactly. So sometimes it's not necessarily that you have to pick one or the other, but it's this idea of actually watching our dogs and what responses they give us when we try different things. Are they responding to that communication or no? Did they like this thing or no? Versus dogs like petting, dogs like walks, dogs like these things. No, every dog likes different things.
Yep. And I will even take it a step further and talk about how these love languages and how essential it is to understand what our dogs like and dislike on a daily basis for things that have nothing to do with training, and how it affects training. Here's a real life opportunity. And I harp on this every single session with every single one of my puppy students. When we work on recalls, folks, we're going to do controlled recalls in the ring. What you're going to do is you're going to stand up nice and tall. You're going to call your dog's name once. You're going to say the word come once, and then you're going to do lots of praises. You're going to do little clapping. You're going to do yippee sounds. You're going to do anything to encourage them that's not actually words. Like you're going to be like, Fido, come, yay, oh my God, pop, 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 yahoo. Just be exciting, be silly, don't say their name 7,000 million times, and they do it. And then I say, feed them 700 million times, get a hold of their leash because they're on, you know, a long line for safety and blah, blah, blah. Take a hold of their leash and that's it. Do not do anything else. And every single person does not take into account that when I say don't do anything else, I also mean don't then shove your hands all over their heads and scratch their faces. Because most dogs, I will guarantee you, I will put down $1,000 right now that most dogs, that their puppies will all start pulling away. And the next time we do recalls, their puppies won't come as readily. Because yeah, sure, they were exciting and fun and they got a piece of food and that was great. But then they got head scratches and ew, why will I come to you and get head scratches that I don't actually want your big hands in my face? Now imagine that. Who has me on speaker view? I have you on gallery. So who has, see these big hands in your face? That's what it looks like to the dogs. Who wants that? And that's what we do to our dogs because we're so excited. They came to us. They were so wonderful and so exciting and we're like feeling awesome. And we're already on the road to breaking their recalls because yeah, we're giving them that piece of food, which they liked and they enjoyed and it was reinforcing. And then we followed it up with something super aversive to them and super icky. And dogs are often looking to avoid aversive stimuli, such as shoving our hands in their faces. So then Fido will run across the street when you drop their leash and they won't come because they think, oh, I'm going to get hands shoved in my face. I'd rather go chase that bunny instead. And then we get mad at our dogs because they didn't come to us. And then we let our emotions get the best of us in those moments because we're worried, we're scared for them. I don't blame you. I do it myself all the time. I forget myself. And I go, why didn't you just come to me, Flash? And he's like, but I was chasing that bunny. And I'm like, but I needed you to come to me. That's dangerous. And he goes, all you had was a stinking piece of kibble and a head scratch. Why the heck should I come to you when I gotta chase that bunny? Now that I learned about his love languages and I started speaking his languages a bit, and I stopped petting him and I started reinforcing and making recalls so much fun. And one of the consequences to coming to me is freedom again. Like I don't call him to me to leash him up. I tell him, hey, I'm gonna leash you up. And his job is to freeze until I leash him up. Like I don't trick him. I tell him every tiny little, because his biggest love language is clear communication. I need to tell him every tiny little piece of every little thing that we're doing. Again, that comes from conflict control aggression. And conflict control aggression, what causes it, the root cause of it is that there is conflict and misunderstanding and lack of trust in between us. That's what it is, because our dog's trying to tell us something and we're saying, no, screw you. Sorry, was I allowed to say that?
You're allowed to say that.
But anyway.
I've
so
never heard such language before.
You're lucky I remember to tone it down. Normally I'm way more. But anyway, so those are some of the things that we have to keep in mind because these are real life consequences to the tiniest little things that we don't think about. They're so very important. And if we add to our dog's quality of life by making sure these things are provided for them, doesn't have to be every day, but on a fairly regular basis, then you can have a dog who can go 8 weeks without physically moving his body and still be mostly controllable. Like his problem behaviors are only starting to crop back up and it's only been 8 weeks. He's got 4 more weeks to go. But I'm making sure to provide him with so much enrichment. He's getting chewy things every day. I usually feed my dogs a raw diet, and instead of the grinds in a puzzle bowl, I've been giving him like whole foods, so like chunks of meat that he really has to chew and spend time and gnaw on and use his brain, and it really exhausts him and makes him feel good afterwards instead of just like gulping down the grinds, which is easy and convenient for me. And that helps. That really helps his behavior. Since I can't provide him another key piece, I am doing extra on the other key piece.
Yep, It's all about, instead of asking what we want from our dogs, it's asking what do they want from us, and figuring out how we can fulfill those needs to the best of our ability. Again, knowing
Yeah.
that not everybody can do all the same things and not every dog wants the same things. There are dogs who love the petting and the head squishes, but not every dog does. And most humans think that most dogs are going to want that. So it's just starting to
Exactly.
really look at our dog's behavior and going, oh, you know, when I petted him, he moved away. Huh, he like ducked his head away. Maybe he doesn't like that, right? So it's figuring out,
Yeah.
I don't know, I got him a snuffle mat, but he doesn't really sniff it. Well, might not be into the snuffle mat, right?
Oh, you know what? His ears got pinned back and he kind of licked his lips a bit. And even though he didn't pull back, I wonder if he liked that. Let me take my hands away and see what he does. Okay, let me try again. Oh, you know what? He walked away. And also, you know, and this is the huge piece of this, and I know, Miranda, you'll agree. The more we provide them with their needs and what they want, the easier it'll be for them to buy in and give us what we want. I'm all about healing reactivity, as in the root cause, rather than make it an obedience thing. I don't need you to look at me the moment your trigger shows up. I need you to feel okay about your trigger. I need you to trust me that I'll keep you safe. I don't need you to do it, because I'll do it. I promise. And we can only get that if our dogs 100% trust us that we will. So we'll get what we need from them if we give them what they need from us.
Yep. Words of wisdom to live by. Unless there are other questions, I'll give you 12 more seconds to put them in here while I give you my little spiel. Again, thanks again so much to Adam for being here and providing a really cool new framework to think about what our dogs need from us. And again, thanks again to Maddie's Fund for providing funding through a grant for us to be able to highlight some awesome voices in our Maddie's Fund speaker series. You can learn more about that on our website. If you enjoyed this and you want to support what we're doing, we would love to have you make a donation or check us out. If you're in the Austin area and you want to go to classes or take private training, things like that, definitely let us know. And please do tell your friends. Again, we offer these webinars for free for a reason. We want folks to be able to access them. So definitely let your friends know. And this will be posted to YouTube tomorrow, as long as YouTube cooperates with me. So thank you so much again, Adam. Really appreciate you being here.
It was my pleasure. This was so much fun. Thank you all for being here.
Yeah. Have a good night, y'all.
Bye.